And welcome back to another episode of Motivate with Coach Camp. I, of course, am your host, Coach Camp, and we are down here in these phenomenal studios known as SRP with Mr. Derek Michaud. Today's episode is one very special. You know, it's funny how circles sometimes come back around and we find ourselves, you never could have seen it coming, and you're reacquainted with somebody that you've known for so many years ago, and now they're doing big things as well. And so that's why I really do enjoy doing this platform, having these opportunities to have conversations, share this kind of stuff with all my listeners all across the world. And this ministry, I hope, inspires some of you guys to go out there, take action, and create your own thing where you see a need. Right now, today, we have three guests. We actually have three guests joining me today. Mr. Neil Colley, Sandy Marbry, Sandy Marbry, and Miss Billie Wilhite. They are from Feed My Lambs Ministry. This ministry was started some time ago, back in 2012, and we're going to talk about the founder and what spawned this idea to go after this. And right now, they currently raise money for children at Walls and Lake Cormorant Elementary to help feed those children. And look, let me tell you something. It's like this. If you want to take a trip that's 1,000 miles, you got to start with one step. And when you take that one step, the second step gets easier. You continue on, and then all of a sudden you look back and you got miles and miles behind you. This started in 2012. We're going to talk about where we are today and then how you guys can get involved and where we're going for tomorrow. So at this time, welcome with me, Mr. Neil, Miss Sandy, and Miss Billie. How are y'all doing?
Great. Good, great.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the studios, SRP. Did you ever think, Miss Wilhite, that you would be sitting in a studio with Chris Camp, that crazy kid in class running around doing a podcast?
Never.
There's no way to know that.
You're still bouncing.
I am still bouncing. That part is true. That is true. Miss Wilhite was a teacher of mine back in high school, and man, a lot of time has went by, it seems like. All of a sudden. It's like yesterday I graduated, and it's like 30 years.
Yes.
What happens?
Life
Does happen.
Life does happen.
Jeez.
I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm so proud of what I've heard and found out that you guys are doing. And so we're going to jump into that right now, just so you have a little backstory about why, whenever I found out what your ministry is all about, it connected with me immediately, because I had seen you post things before, Mr. Neil, and I didn't know what it was. I just thought maybe it was just like a children's church or something. I had no idea. And I looked it up and then got some details on it and found out it's all because kids at school, and you wouldn't think this, in 2024 in DeSoto County, kids go hungry. Kids don't have enough to eat at lunch. They don't get breakfast a lot of times. Now they got to try to make it through the school day. And that became a reality to me. I'm going to start with this, but then we're going to get into the ministry that you guys are working with. It was probably about 5 years ago. My daughter was in maybe 4th grade or 5th grade, and I caught word from a lady that worked there, it was a friend of mine, that if a kid had ran out of money in their lunch queue at the end of the day, they were at the end of the semester, they would take the food back. And the kid goes through the line and get the food, and then it's like, oh, well, you don't have any money in your queue, and they would take the food away.
That's true.
And I said, never again. I called the principal. I talked to a few of, I can't remember if it was maybe Usselton. I can't remember who else I talked to, but I was like, from now on at this school, if this problem happens, you take note of every child that is missing money, and I will put the money in there. Do not let them go hungry. The next thing I know, there was a change in how they did things, and they would no longer take the food back from a child at that school. That was where it ended. I never thought for a second that was a problem. And then I come across y'all's ministry. And then apparently this is a problem that's probably nationwide, I would say, that this kind of thing takes place everywhere. Yeah. So all of those things said, it was personal to me. How dare a child not have an opportunity to eat, right? And I didn't know what else to do with it. So your daughter did.
Yes.
So Miss Wilhite, let's talk a little bit about what inspired your daughter to start this ministry.
She had worked for the county in food service, and one of her jobs was to check people's forms where they had applied for free or reduced lunches. And as she went into the schools and talked to the teachers, she began to realize that there were children that did not have food on the weekend. They may have lunches at school, but when they'd go home for the weekend, there was not enough food. And the teachers would identify these students on Monday morning. They could tell who was hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So Jennifer said told our church family that we needed to start a ministry of weekend backpacks. She had researched it around the country and said this was going on. So we began this ministry.
And what school was this at?
This was at Walls Elementary.
So she was at Walls Elementary at the time.
Well, she worked for the county in food service, and she was just checking in at the different schools.
Gotcha.
So we started this ministry, and if I remember correctly, we started with maybe 5 or 6 kids that first year. Mm. And as the year goes on, the number increases. But then the ministry just increased. And now we serve 2 schools, Walls Elementary and Lake Common Elementary School.
So how were the kids getting noticed at that time? Were they just being seen not eating? Or how would they know which kids needed the help?
The teachers were sharp enough to recognize it. A lot of children are restless. A lot of children are listless if they've not had enough food.
Energy, yeah, sure.
So we began to pack 2 breakfast, 2 entrees, and 3 snacks.
4 snacks.
4 snacks? Mm-hmm. Oh, 4 snacks. And began to pack enough for them to have something to eat to get them through the weekend.
And how would you approach a child like that? Because the first thing I think about is this, if you're a small kid, maybe you don't have that prideful scenario. Maybe they are just happy to have the moment. But there is an age and there is a time when a person's like embarrassed by that. So how would you guys go about that? How did she do that?
Well, Sandy, maybe want to tell about that.
Okay. It's, sometimes I think it's even the younger children that take the packages home and they look forward to it.
They do. Yeah.
We have people that are assistants and that work at the schools. But it's confidentially, put in their bag. It's not just, there's not a big show of that. The teachers or the assistants put the food in their backpacks. But I've heard that the children are really thrilled to get their bags.
Yeah. And so when you guys started this process, how did word spread or how did other kids find out? Was it just word of mouth?
We rely on the counselors. The
Okay.
counselors, I contact them every August and to give them a certain time frame, like 3 weeks after school starts, to let us know the number. But the counselors work with the teachers. And in that 3 weeks, then they can sort of notice these children. And of course, there's children that are a carryover from the year prior that, that might still be on the program. But we rely heavily on the counselors and, in the case of Walls, with someone that assists the counselor, Betty Spooner. So we've got great contacts.
Shout out to Betty.
Yeah, shout out to Betty.
She's the best.
Neil's mother, Nancy, was my contact at Walls for several years.
Yeah.
And I could depend on them to give us an accurate count and to make sure that the bags got out. I mean, just very caring.
Was there a formal process as far as like signing up? Did they have to sign up for it?
There's no qualifier other than the teacher recommends them, and then there's a permission form though that goes home. The parents have to agree that the children.
So any
can
kid could
receive
qualify.
Yes.
If they needed it.
If they needed it.
They found a need for it. Yeah. And so whenever you guys started at Walls Elementary, well, by the way, I like how the ties come in. So I too went to Walls Elementary.
Really?
And it was very small back then. We had 1st through 6th grade in that one building out there in I don't know what kind of farm field that was, a soybean or whatever it was. But yeah, it's like a
soybean field.
I think it probably was. And it was very small back then and now it's grown. So at that elementary school, is it still, what are the grades?
It's
K through 6, I think, or K through 5.
K through 5.
K through 5 now.
K through 5.
Yeah.
And so at the elementary school you have there and then Lake Cormorant, is there any process or thought process about moving to junior high, or they call it middle school now?
Well, it's a little tough, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about that.
Because I, similarly with you, I experienced something that through this ministry, we'll explain later how I got involved, but I thought we was taking care of them through the weekend to get them back to school, only to find out that they were not exactly getting food at school. So I kind of dove into that a little bit myself. My mom, who was always that's how I got involved with this awareness, and I think that I found out that we had some cutoffs in the county. There was a point of a number they hit. And once they hit that number, it was a cutoff. So it was like a carton of milk and bologna and ham or a little piece of fruit or something, but it wasn't the whole lunch. So I started calling the county and getting involved, just like you did. Surprisingly enough, with both schools, I had some wonderful cafeteria managers that got involved, started paying off lunch tabs once they hit that cutoff. Well, the process behind all that was inevitably the need for food security got just worse and worse and worse. And so when you meet those people at the county level and then they find a way to get the resources, kind of what they're looking for. They just didn't have them. But now we know the Title I schools, all of them in DeSoto County are getting free lunches. 100%. Yeah. That's new.
That's new.
And that was one. I don't think it's supposed to be announced. And I may have got off subject a little bit there.
No, it still ties in because, here's the thing. All right. So, and this is why whenever the opportunity presented for us to be able to talk about this, and I know you have a fundraiser, and we're going to talk about all those things coming up, but, I think it's easy for a person that is not in a struggle position to not recognize some of the needs and problems that are out there. And that's not a knock on anybody, right? So unless you've been there and done that, sometimes it's hard to see that need is in front of you. Sure. We think about feeding children, hungry children in third world countries. Yeah. That's an easy assumption. You look at the TV, you're like, okay, I want to send money to a person in this country, that country, whatever. Sure. And that's great. That's great. But we don't sometimes even recognize that we have those needs right here in your town, and that town is all across America. I remember, maybe it was 2 years ago, they were talking about this on the radio. I'm old. I listen to talk radio. All right, so there it is. My wife hates it. She gets in the car, she's like, when I listen to talk radio, she puts it on music. But they were talking about, there was an uproar about Memphis City schools having free lunches for kids that qualify. Yeah. And the problem that they were saying was that this is just another burden on the taxpayer, blah, 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 blah. And the conversation I was hearing was from an obvious perspective of someone that had never really understood what it meant to be hungry.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, look, I'm not even going to pretend like I'm not first world. I am first world. I get it. I've been very privileged my entire life to have great parents, great opportunities. I've never went hungry. I'm telling you this, and it is funny-ish, but it's real. The first time I had to have a colonoscopy, I had to go 24 hours without eating.
That was rough.
And I realized I had never been 24 hours without eating. Yeah. And it was insane to me to think, in the last hours before I had to go in to do the procedure stuff, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make it. And then it kind of hits me for the first time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many kids are doing that?
Yeah.
And then they got to go to school.
Yeah.
And then they got to deal with peer pressure. Yeah. They got to deal with bullies. Yeah. They got to try to get their studies done.
Yeah.
Then they come home and they've got to make sure that they please their parents in a way. Or maybe they have siblings that pick on them. It's like, how many things stack up on a child?
Yeah.
And see, so often, we think that these children go home to a regular family when they're fed all weekend, but they're not because of the circumstances in that family. That we have so many broken homes, so many divorced parents, that there's so many family problems at home that they don't get fed. No one's gone to the grocery store. They just are left alone very often.
So was it a surprise to you when Jennifer, your daughter, comes home and says, "Hey, Mom, I just found a need. I'm going to take action"?
No, it was not a surprise. That was her heart.
How fast were you to jump on board with that?
We can do that.
Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So how does that start? Talk to me a little bit about how does that process start? So she brings home the idea. She knows what the thing is that y'all need to do. What is the next steps after that?
We went to the church and presented it to the pastor and the board. And
what church, if you don't mind me asking?
Minor Memorial United Methodist in Walls.
In Walls, okay.
And we presented to the church council, and they thought it was a good idea, and so she began to organize it. And of course, there was finding food sources, planning a menu, all of this, and then checking with the schools and began to screen the children and so forth. So she organized everything and decided on what we were going to feed them, and then we began to pack and pray.
Did you guys get donors for the food?
In the very beginning, I don't remember anything about the fundraising. I really don't. But as time went on, it became donor motivated because it's not a part of this church budget.
Yeah.
Everything is outside the church.
Yeah. And were there other churches that got involved?
No.
No. Did you ever think, or was that a thought to maybe go to try to bring in more in the community?
Yes, it was a thought.
It was a thought, yeah. Because growing up in Walls, it is a tight-knit community, or at least it used to be. I can't speak to it now. I drive through there occasionally. The mayor's a good friend of mine. So I was connected back in the day. I grew up in Twin Lakes, which was Walls.
Yes.
I went to First Baptist Church of Walls, which was this little bitty little house on the prairie style church right on Old 61 before they made the big highway for the casinos. It was like the little bitty 2-lane 61, and we were right next to Sacred Heart. And so like the community was tight back then, and you knew people. And so finding a need like that, I was just curious if other people jumped on board or if that was explored to try to bring other individuals in.
I don't remember it intentionally set out to do that, but we would let people know that they could be involved, and people from the community have helped us through the years.
They have.
And so, Neil, how do you get involved in this? How do you come into the picture?
Well, funny enough, I had no clue about the program, which I think is kind of why I felt compelled to get involved, is because I think it's because of the separation of church and state that we have. They couldn't really announce to the school, like they can't go in and say this is from the church.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it has to be called something other than Minor Memorials Ministry. So that's where the Feed My Lambs comes in. And then, of course, they ask permission from the parents. So it has to be done like that. So when I found out was when Miss Billie's daughter passed away. And I didn't know her. I didn't know anything about the program. And my kids all went to Walls Elementary.
And what year was that your daughter passed?
2 years ago.
3
years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah. 3.5 maybe. Something like that. I think so. And then so my mother, our daily multiple talks we'd have, and I'm in the phase of, much like you were earlier when I heard you speaking to your mom, you're glad she called, but you're like, oh, here we go, like a little bit. I would give anything for one of those phone calls right now.
Oh, trust me. It was the singing was about to be awesome and bad at the same time, but I love it. I love my mom. Don't get me wrong. I love it.
So, however, we were talking one night, and she's going on, and I was kind of half-heartedly in the conversation, as usual. Just I listened to her. She needed that, and that was my daily routine with her, was to hear her daily events.
Yeah, sure.
So she was talking about it, and I finally was like, I'm hearing her talking. Whoa, Mom, who passed away, and what program are you talking about? And she goes, well, it's Feed My Lambs, and Jennifer was like the one who started it, and she was like our primary fundraiser, and she's gone. I don't know who's gonna and the program's broke, because she's been sick, and the church parishioners have been supporting this thing, trying to keep it afloat. And I didn't know any of these guys, by the way. I'm just, my mom and wife both taught there, and through my mother, I met some wonderful people that's taught there, like Miss Betty Spooner, who's probably our lifeline at Walls Elementary. However, so I got to thinking a little bit that night after we taught. I went to bed, and it was preying on my mind, because kids are my kryptonite. You know what I mean? So when I heard these kids are not eating, I'm like, what? How did I not know about this?
Sure. And that's a great point, though, because I think that's common. In fact, this conversation right now, there are listeners that are here all across America right now that are watching this, and they're like, I never even thought about that.
Right.
They're going to check in on this and be like, that's happening in my backyard. I didn't even know right now.
And then when I start investigating a little bit, and I find out the church, and I've known a lot of good people that's went to this church. I'm not associated with this church. I'm not a member. I don't have any affiliation with them. But I approached Miss Sandy almost immediately afterwards and just had questions. I was like, I needed to vet it a little bit, and find out what's going on. And they're a wonderful part of the Walls community, and I know they put their money where their mouth is, almost on everything. They're one of the few churches. When I figured that out, I knew I was in the right spot. And I asked how I could get involved without being part of the church. She goes, well, it's really not the church's program. We just house it. We allow them to have a free spot. We help them manage the money, that kind of thing. And then like somebody like Miss Sandy and Miss Billie get involved to assist it. The church just is gracious enough for us to use their facilities. And to my surprise, I was really shocked. So anyway, within a day or two, I asked Miss Sandy how the financials were, and she's like, not good. She goes, it's touch and go to the end of the year, And because her daughter had been sick, and there wasn't really a lot of effort being put involved, and the churches, once they do a lot for the community. I mean, a lot of different programs they're involved with. So I just called about, I don't know, put in some calls with a few buddies, We rounded up enough money, a few $1,000, I think, or something like that to get them through the end of the year. Just me, then, and I don't want to mention their names, so I don't want to embarrass them, but they're true friends that I've met through the business through the years and I could count on. And they're like, how much do you need? And I'd be like, I need X, Y, Z from every one of you. And I went and picked them up and I dropped it off. And I didn't want any notoriety. That was the biggest thing. Like, I just wanted to kind of I thought, let's get them through and then maybe it'll solve itself. And then, I don't know, I got compelled. I was talking to another friend of mine who's Randy Hendrickson, who owns a big roofing company, Roofworks, by the way. And he has a heart like myself. And he's one of those guys you meet later in life that becomes one of the most incredible friends you've ever met. And you would think you've known him since you were 6 years old. We have the same thought process. He's like, well, Neil, he's like, why don't we do like a barbecue and like pump this thing up, And I'm like, that is an awesome idea. So I called Miss Sandy and I said, hey, if I live till the start of the school year, I'm going to do you it's just how we talk, right?
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to do a barbecue fundraiser and generate some revenue and do some calling around, see what else I can drum up for us to kind of fund this thing for the next year.
And what year was that?
3 years ago, I guess.
So 2021 maybe?
Yeah, something like
somewhere
that.
there.
I lose track of years.
It's okay. Yeah, it's common.
So however, man, it was a lot of work, but a lot of fun. We did it in the hottest part. We literally, I think it was like
August 27th.
You do know August is hot in Mississippi.
Yeah, right. But I was thinking we need to plan it right before school starts or right after, and about killed us all,
Yes.
like we're just physically, I think Randy said he lost like 20 pounds that day cooking. And so,
I've grown up here. I know all about it.
So, and I'm aware of that. So, but we're on the truck cooking. We serve plates. We had a ton of response from that. And it was just word of mouth. My mom's running around dropping off flyers, telling every human being she sees. And these guys too at the church. So it turned out real good. So I thought, well, that was easy enough. We should be able to do it again next year, So that's kind of how it started for me. And then I kind of worked on that and it's built each year. And this year, oddly enough, I tried to recruit him last year and he committed, but I wanted to add a car show last year to kind of just put, maybe people were just interested in the food, but like give a community something to come do besides just eat, of course.
Sure.
And I reached out to a young man by the name of Tony Yeager, who lives in Walls, and I've known his dad and his daughter, but I didn't know him. But he's kind of a local celebrity in that area. I don't know if you're familiar with him. But
what was the name again?
Tony Yeager. He's a local car builder. He has a show on ID channel called Bell Jumpers. He's a local fugitive recovery officer as well.
Okay.
Frog, I think, is the name of their group, Fugitive Recovery Operations Group, I think. Well, he's got a huge following, so he knows. And he's been on Discovery with the Street Outlaws. Like he's done some of that stuff. So he's got a little bit of a following. Yeah. And so he's big into cars, and I knew that. So I reached out to him, and he's like, yeah. And so at the last minute, he had double booked, and he was like, I'm sorry. And this was like a month out, but I went on and had it. We had a pretty good one. And but this year I got him early, and he committed, and he's like, I'm building cars for the show right now. Like, we're going to come. And so the groundwork, he's helping us promote it. He does body work, paint work, builds cars, and obviously PI and Bounty Hunter and whatever, like they're all over the place. But so with that traction, this year has already surpassed last year, and we're still almost a month out, and we're already past our point of, fundraising, but I'm going to continue on because I want to get it fully funded. When the cost of increase that's took place with the food items that we deal with as well, like, before we were at $4 a kid per weekend, now we're probably closer to $7. And we're feeding upwards of 150 kids a week.
I was just about to ask Miss Sandy about the budgeting and that. So it's funny you're touching into that because that was like on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah. So it's a huge cost. And of course, it's all volunteer based, 100%. Every single dollar goes to the kid. So there's nobody taking a dime out of the program. We spend a lot of money out of pocket that we never see again. Like I certainly do because I buy all I just do everything for the program because it's my fundraiser. So the meats and then of course this year getting the tents together, trophies for the car show, and I have a ton of partnerships by Tri-State Trophies. They donate the trophies and stuff like that. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys or any of those guys up there.
Tri-State,
Yeah.
Coach a lot of teams.
Sure, so I'm sure you've
used them many times, actually, yes.
Man, they were like, absolutely, we'll do whatever you want, And so this is a great program. And, of course, Dale Wilson this year, I went to him for tents. He's, he's a big operator in the area. He's as main events, just program. He does event tents and big I don't know what I ought to call it. Dale's involved in so much. He owns all the fireworks stands around the area. So that's the guy right?
Okay.
And of course, he's a big land developer. So he was gracious enough to get involved. And so I've gotten partnerships through that to kind of help promote this thing. And then, of course, the church, Minor Memorial, they give me just open door to their entire facilities for the day. Whatever I need, they do. And they're very, very gracious for doing so because I guess they know we're helping them, but at the same time, they don't have to do that. I may have to go rent a facility to do it. You know? And they've got a great spot and great traffic flow through and it. Just wonderful people. I don't know the church itself, but I know the people there are amazing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And like I said before, I'm really surprised it doesn't like catch on fire when I ride up there every day because, I've never been a big church goer. And my mom actually, I think Sandy and them used to ask him all the time, and Billy and them, like, he don't go to church. Like, he's not she's like, no, I've been begging him to come, So, but anyway, it's just that's how I got involved and I feel compelled. And of course, with her passing, I just like doubled down on it, because now I'm missing her. And she was she was absolutely my number one person to go to with this. Like, she'd be calling me, I sold 2 butts today and blah, 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 it's like that kind of thing. Of course, I call Sandy and tell her, and of course, she's like, I already talked to your mama, So it's a very family organized group. We have a lot more people coming on board for volunteers, and I'm always, helping. That idea is good of it. But I'm just a simple fundraiser. The reason why I wanted these ladies to come today, because I'd reached out to you originally, is because they know the history. Yeah. They've been involved with it from the inception. I know a little bit of that, but I don't know the importance of that part. But when I found out, like, they're just missing one element of this, and it's just somebody to promote the crap out of it and figure out how to get it out to the public so people recognize what it is. Like you said, you would see it, but you didn't really realize what it was. So Sandy created a PDF for me this year that was kind of more, I could send it out with the actual things. So the sheet that you got would be able to tell you exactly what it was. Because a fundraiser is just a fundraiser.
Well, now I know all about it because unlike in high school, I do my homework. I do my homework now. The value, it just took a while. I was a late bloomer is what I like to refer to myself as. So, Miss Sandy, let me ask you about that. So you are, it sounds like, kind of in charge of the funding, the budgeting,
actually,
the money aspects, or no?
An official coordinator.
Okay.
I wouldn't take the job, but I do the job.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't take the title, but I do it.
Okay.
And I really wasn't too concerned with the funding. I've just left that on the preacher. I says, well, just tell me when we run out of money. But anyway, I've had to change my thinking, and Neil's made me more aware, and our shoppers have made me more aware, and so now I am. But I kind of coordinate with the counselors and with the volunteers, make sure we have volunteers that to shop and to pack and to deliver. And we, pitch it to the church, trying to get them to pledge children. And I let them know, too, what how we really need to throw behind our fundraiser and Neil's efforts, because it provides a big portion of our budget.
Mm-hmm. And today, look, it's not like this is a profound, wild, like, oh, wow, I can't believe that's true. Things are more expensive now.
They're horrible. It's horrible.
And what is in connection with the inflation of every item that you need in life is also people's needs. So as people grow and, the population expands, the need is more profound. And then you have all of this, stuff that you're going to have to provide is going up in cost. And let's face it, it's sometimes you get pulled in so many directions. It's easy to wonder how in the world something continues, and then a door opens and an opportunity presents itself. And you realize that, it's much bigger than you, whatever that thing is that you were trying to get going. Your daughter knew that from the very early days. It was never going to be about her. It was going to be about the bigger product. And so it does take a team. It takes a village, if you will, to be able to function well and bring in people that had no idea about anything, but one person took the first step and you saw the value. And whenever that opportunity presented to you, you wanted to get on board and be a part of it. And so I think that's part of the message here that I want to also relay to folks is, I think a lot of times we don't understand what the needs are. And I don't think that we go looking for it. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we live our lives and we wake up and we have our family and we have our responsibilities. And so you got to go through this life, this world that's tough for you anyways. But what I have found, because I'm a part of the Hope Center, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a mentorship group that works with, a lot of times it's underprivileged children, but it could be children from any direction. It doesn't matter. They could come from the wealthiest of family and want to be a part of the program. That's not there's not a qualifier. But what I have seen is a lot of times, one, people don't recognize the need that would like to help. They don't know what needs are out there. And then two, people that are in need don't know the resources that are there to help them. So your daughter's vision, did she ever express that to you, Miss Wilhite, about where she wanted to see it go? Or was she just simply saying, hey, look, we're going to do this right now? But as time went on, did she start to say, I would like to grow it to here, and I would like to expand and help this?
I never heard her say anything about making it grow other than just serving our community where she knew the need was.
Right.
That was the main thing. And she knew that through the church we could manage this. And that's where she left it right there.
You know, I think she would probably be pretty amazed, don't you think?
She would. And her children are so proud of her and appreciate the recognition that she gets from doing it.
You know, I say this a lot of times in a lot of my episodes is we should try to live bigger than ourselves, and we're leaving behind a legacy. And the legacy is not about self-promotion, but the legacy is about inspiration. And when we take action on something and we have a conviction to act like you did, like when you recognized the things, Neil, and you said, hey, whether or not you acknowledged it this way, it was a conviction to take action. And when you do that, when you take that action, you inspire someone else, and it may not be right away. It may be 10 years from now. It may be 15 years from now. But what you've done is you've laid down the groundwork for someone else to say, hey, look, these people started from here. There was nothing. And now look where it is today. I see this in front of me that's a need. Let me take action on that. And then they start to move forward.
I'll tell you though, man, I don't have a background in fundraising at all. Like
that's okay though, right?
Like, I mean, you know, to be fair, you know what I do for a living because that's how you and I met.
That's true. You dropped off some rocks in my house. It's wonderful. And I still use those rocks today.
Yeah, that's right. So I do have a little in my life, you know, I've always been kind of a talker and a salesman. So I guess that's probably what benefits me a little bit. And I guess my credibility with the majority of people I deal with are relationships through business and friendships that I've acquired through the years. So I think that's where we get the majority of our fundraising from. And of course I rely on them to spread the word. But like Sandy asked me one day, she goes, Neil, how do you just come up with all this? And I'm like, I really don't know.
We all have different talents and different gifts.
Know.
You know,
I just get on the phone and start calling, you know, and it's coming up with ideas about what's doing. You know, but like it's my mom and I mean, she definitely never met a stranger, so probably a lot of that came over
me
on
as
me
well.
For sure. Yeah,
my wife, she dreads going to Walmart.
Oh yeah, look, man,
a 5-minute trip's 20 minutes.
It's true, and she was that way. There'd be kids hanging on her coming through the door, man, and I'm like. 2 nights before she passed away, we were at a Mexican restaurant having dinner, and I go up to talk to some people I knew, and I come back, and I ask the waiter for the ticket, and he's like, it's all good. And I'm like, what happened? He goes, well, those people behind you over there paid for your dinner, so because that was his teacher.
Oh, wow.
You know, so like,
that's
I was
awesome.
like, that's the kind of stuff, you know, that kind of happens. So, and to kind of touch on a couple of things about the program you were talking about earlier, how things come full circle. I recently was in a restaurant picking up some food for the family for the night, going home, and never missed an opportunity to do a little promotion for the Feed My Lambs. So I was standing there, and these 2 young girls were checking me out, and they asked me, first of all, how tall I was, because I'm pretty tall, and I was, that's what that broke the ice. So then I went in and started telling them, I told them what I was trying to do. I said, you guys ever heard of Feed My Lambs? Y'all from around here? And the one little girl goes, little girl, she's probably 20, but she goes, I was on that program. And I said, well, that's kind of what I'm promoting right now. And she goes, I never knew where it came from or anything. It just like, she goes, but it saved me and my brothers. Like it's really the only thing we had on the weekends for a while, you know. And I said, well, look, this is an opportunity, any capacity you can get involved with to give back, you need to find a way because there's little children behind you that need the help as well.
I can believe this is actually right here. I have this written down.
Oh, wow.
It's right there. It's in my notes.
Oh, yeah. So
in my notes was, did you have people that benefited from the program now want to come back and give back? And here we are.
That's happening a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Did you read this?
Yeah. No, I didn't know. I think we just have a similar
that's
mindset.
Amazing. Yeah.
So the lack of the whole program, I just assessed it initially was just nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
You know, I went to yesterday, a friend of mine, I used to have a shop, by the way, right next to the school. And right behind that is a guy at Mid-South Scaffolding. His name's Alan Salt. He's a good friend of mine. I'll mention him. I don't think he minds. I was just on the phone with him. I'd been down to almost to Batesville delivering some material just yesterday. Turns out it was his son-in-law. Small world, right?
It is.
And then I hadn't thought about Alan in a while because I sold my shop a few years back and hadn't been in Walls too much, like the downtown part. We all live in the community of Walls, but we don't live in the town of Walls. And
it's been expanded, or we're tracks like Horn Lakes pickup and
right. So I'm down there, and this guy's mom, like she's from Stuttgart, Arkansas, or something. And I start selling her on the Feed My Lambs. Like I just start telling her about my program, and then she's like, I know who you need to talk to, and she goes, where are you from? And I said, well, she goes, Alan Salt, and I'm like, well, I know Alan. She goes, well, you need to call him, and I'm like, you're right. So I said, how do you know Alan? She goes, well, that's my son is married to his daughter,
Wow.
So we're 100 miles in this area, and so I call him, and he's like, Neil, I'm literally right behind the school. You know where my shop is? He goes, I didn't even know that exists. I'm always asking for some program to get involved with, and I've got the means. So he cut me a very substantial check. I just gave it to her just a minute ago. And thank you, Alan, by the way.
Very nice, very nice.
And many, many people like that, by the way. I mean, I can go from V. McGee Trucking to RCL of Hernando. Kevin Venetia McGee has been very gracious. I'd like to, I can't name them all, but there's been some real large contributors this year that's just finding out about it that I've known. And as a matter of fact, RCL has been a supporter of our program from the get-go, but they're not retail box stores. These are not people you can walk out and buy something from. These are guys that there's no benefit for them to advertise or anything, but it's just they have a heart for it.
Sure.
And so it's taking care of our local community. And I look at DeSoto County as a whole, as this local community. And I'm sure there's problems at every school that could use a Feed My Lambs program,
100%.
Even in the best of areas, because there's not a money qualifier. It's not we don't know what's going on at home.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, we just don't know.
That's the bottom line. A person could look on the outside and have an assumption as to what the situation is and have absolutely no clue. I will just say this, if I can add to it, is I think that was one of the biggest eye-opening experiences I had once I became a firefighter paramedic in Memphis. You can pull up on the outside of a house and have an assumption as to what's going on. You go inside and the life that you would think is going on indoors is nothing that is the reality. My fast example to that was, I just remember pull up in front of it was a very nice house, large house in East Memphis, nice cars in the driveway, and we were called for a sick party, and we walk in and all the people are in the living room talking and mingling, and there's like 15 people there, and it's like, oh, she's down the hall to the left. And I walk down this hallway and take a left and go into this bedroom, and there's this 21-year-old girl laying in pajamas that's peed herself on a mattress in the floor.
Right.
And she's addicted to drugs, and the family's given up. And you just look around, and you're like, you never see this. Well, that same type of facade happens with children, and they put up a front a lot of times. They won't let people know what they're going through at the house. It could be everything from abuse to hunger, and the needs are out there. And, you can't save the world. And I think that's a thing here that sometimes a person might get caught up in thinking, well, I can't do something for everybody. So here's the deal. You should never look at life I'm going to wait till I have everything to help everybody. You should always say to yourself, I'm going to do something for somebody. Because if you wait, you'll end up doing nothing for nobody. It's so important to take action. And one person can matter. And just like you said, you had that one individual that you run into at the restaurant that says to you, oh, that place, it saved us and we didn't know how to reconnect. And now we want to help out. I think to me, that is the seed. That's the seeds. You plant these seeds and you never know how long that tree is going to take to grow. They all grow at different times, but when it grows, now it can flourish and it can help so many other people. Just to give you one example with the Hope Center as a relation, N'Kobe Dean plays football for the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a kid with the Hope Center back when it first started. Whenever he got into college and played for Georgia and then won some awards, the Dick Butkus Award and stuff. And he was awarded $10,000 to give to any charity of his choice.
Right.
He gives that to the Hope Center. So my point is this, the cycle will continue.
It will.
stay the course and have the trust and the faith and belief that what you're doing matters today. Because sometimes I think it's easy, and I'm not saying that you guys are there, but maybe you were at one point, especially after your daughter passed, where you see the trenches and it's hard to see tomorrow, and you don't know if this is going to continue, and you know that her process was worthy and it was needed, but how is it going to continue? And then you just find a Mr. Neal driving a rock truck down the road.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I have a love for that. Let me jump in and help you guys out. So anyone out there watching and thinking, hey, I had this idea that this is a need in my community, but who's going to listen to me? Well, look, if you would have told me 3 years ago, I would have had a microphone and I would have been watched in 40 different countries around the world, I'd have said, y'all are crazy. And my wife would say, God bless them.
By the way, let's just pause right there, because I was at his house. This has probably been 3 or 4 years ago. And I was dumping a load for his goats to walk on or something. I don't know what we were doing.
I have a small farm.
Chris got a little small farm at his place. And by the way, a beautiful place.
Thank you.
And however, he's got his garage open. And I don't know if all y'all know this, but this guy's a workout freak.
Used to be. Old now.
Yeah. Well,
turned 51 today.
Yeah, by the way, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah. 50, 51, 29, something like that. Yeah. But anyway, I bought a weight set from you. We were in there talking about it, and not that I've been using it, of course, but my son was, he was interested. So we're talking, and I said, well, Chris, what else been going on? He said, man, believe it or not, I've been compelled to start kind of doing some motivational speaking and stuff. And I'm like, really? I'm like, at what capacity? He said, well, I don't know where it's going to lead me. But
I had no idea.
I mean, it was literally fresh on you, I think.
I was putting the phone on a garbage can and recording positive messages to put on social media.
Right.
It's literally where it started.
And so when I left there that day, I thought, wow, he's got to be close to my age. I didn't even know, but you were. We're actually the same age. I think I'm maybe 6 months older than you. But I was like, what a place to be in life, that's pretty cool. You know, and hey, look, by the way, I'm not talking about regular workout equipment. This guy's got some rock wall type stuff in his training. I
used to be when I was a firefighter. You had to be in shape.
You're still in shape, man. It's not a question of that. So that was what I was going to tell you, is I was kind of with him, but we don't talk a lot. It's just kind of here and there and stuff, but I always remembered him from that. It was an impressive point to me, and you made an impression upon me, and I was like, I thought that was cool. So when you started doing it, I'm like, right on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the thing about it is, you're right. I didn't know where it would lead. I just knew I had a calling to that.
You're compelled.
And I took action, right?
Yeah. Same with me. It's kind of what happened here.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I'm relating on. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I really
don't be scared to take that step, not knowing where it's going to lead.
Well, like that deal, I told my mom, I said, so it's just a money thing. And she's like, yeah, I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
Because we got all the volunteers in the world. We, as far as the pack and play, by the way, they call it pack and play, because Thursdays, after whoever does all the shopping through the week, because these volunteer ladies go around to find the best deals they can to get the most value out of the money. And then they come back Thursday. She organizes this. I'm sure all these wonderful women show up, and they have I don't know what you call it in a church group, a little bit of a, I don't know. I mean,
ladies group? I don't know.
No, there's some men.
No, there's some men.
It's a fellowship.
We call
that's what I want to call
it.
Fellowship. It's fellowship.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a word.
Afterwards.
However, it's good fellowship, and then of course I've never been, because I'm working. I'm just kind of it's not part of the system. So I do very little in my mind compared to what all these folks do, because there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes.
How many people are on the team?
Well, we probably have about 10 regular volunteers that show up for Pack and Pray. And we have 2 shoppers. We have a couple of delivery people and then backup people. And we have a family that comes and loads the cart for us the day before we pack it. It's a mom, and I think they have 5 children, don't they? All the children are in.
Wow, that's awesome.
She homeschools.
And they are homeschooled.
They're homeschooled.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And they do a tremendous job helping us that way. And but yeah, we have quite a few, and we've had a few people in the community. Our volunteers aren't necessarily church members.
Well, my mom wasn't a member of the church.
No, she was
And
not.
we've had a couple of more that have volunteered this year that'll probably show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, here's where we're at. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back from the break, we are going to talk about some of the events you guys have coming up. If somebody wants to become involved with the program, how they could reach out to you guys. And we're just going to make sure that whenever we finish this thing today, hopefully this message hits the places it needs to hit prior to y'all's big fundraising. And we're going to talk about that date and everything else. So do not go away.
A great opportunity awaits. The Motivate with Coach Camp podcast is now in its second season, and we are excited to say that we have listeners all over the United States and in 19 countries. If you have a company and you're interested in some very affordable advertising, while at the same time supporting a great cause, please go to motivatewithcoachcamp.com and fill out that sponsorship page, and we'll get right back to you. You can support the podcast through donations on Venmo at Motivate with Coach Camp. Thank you to all the listeners and guests who have blessed this podcast with their engagement and involvement.
Welcome back, everybody, from that little break. And look, if you guys have been following along, and I know you have, today we have with us Miss Sandy, Miss Billie, Mr. Neil. And they've been talking about the Feed My Lambs ministry. And look, this is an amazing program. It takes care of kids that have hunger issues, food issues in DeSoto County here at Walls Elementary and at Lake Cormorant. And we were at that point where I want to find out a little bit about what it takes to be a donor. If you want to donate certain things, what those things have to look like. And Miss Billie was sharing with us on the break an amazing story. Then I told her I had to hit pause, and then we're going to come right back and hit play again. And I need to hear that story here on the air. So Miss Billie, you were mentioning on the break about how a person was driving down the road, had a flat tire, individual was helping them. Tell me about that real quick.
Someone from church stopped to help a man who had a flat tire on Highway 61. And in the conversation, the man found out that he went to Minor Memorial at this church. And the man said he was so thankful for what the meals that we sent home because it had helped his family out in a time of need.
And see, you just never can tell how far that ripple goes. I speak a lot about, analogies and stuff. And when you throw a pebble in the water, of course, the ripple will go and we'd never see the end of it. Yeah. And that's just one more great example. And you were talking about, Mr. Neil, about how the product has to be, if somebody wants to donate, what is those donations? What do they have to look like? If somebody wants to donate food.
I believe Sandy's more qualified to
give me that one.
Yeah.
Well, normally what we need like two breakfast items, 2 lunch items, and 4 snacks. And the food items have to be something that the child can prepare. So like we do macaroni and cheese cups that can be put in the microwave, or pop-top ravioli, or just things that the children can cook. We can't use canned goods really, other than these single-serve foods that we do. And we did have a very good food donation from one of the local companies. We had a pallet of macaroni and cheese cups delivered last week.
Wow.
And that was from a local builder. Her name is Tanner Hernandez, and her company is McKenzie Gray Properties. And her connection is her mother attends church with us. Her mother is a member of our church, and Tanner has been at our church as well.
That was a huge contribution.
It was huge. That represents at least $2,000 worth of food.
And how many cups did you told me a while ago?
It was 1,400 cups, and we're starting out this year with 115 children, and that will take us through 12 weeks.
So it's 115 children. Was it? You said $7 per day per child?
Yeah, but that's just the beginning now, because it'll work up to like probably $150 by the time they get add-ons and drop-offs.
You're just talking about other kids coming in. Yeah, so I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, so it's for real.
A lot of money. It's a lot of kids. And you obviously want to help everyone that needs help, right? So other people that want to donate food, where do they take that food to?
Okay, they could contact us at Minor Memorial United Methodist Church in Walls. We have plenty of literature on our website. I have a QR code where they can go straight to the Feed My Lambs page, and can contact a church to get the food list of the food items that we take, or they could donate funds either way.
Oh, so that's actually one of the questions I was going to ask is, do you guys have a list of items that are great suggestions? It's almost like a registry.
Yes. We do. And that's on our website as well.
All right. And what is that website? Because I need to make sure I put that in here.
www.minormemorial.org/lambs.
Okay.
And that's our dedicated page with the information about the program and also the place to donate. And I'm pretty sure our food list is on there. And if it's not, I'll make sure it gets on there.
Have you guys ever reached out to grocery stores or food distributors?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's tough, yeah.
I reached out to one of our local guys. I don't want to mention his name, and I think he just got busy, but he owns some restaurants, and I was kind of thinking that backlog of how we can go through their suppliers maybe to get a little better deal or whatever, and excuse me, he had intended on getting back with me. So, but I hadn't heard anything. But however, yes, I am working that angle as well through it's not just money I'm after. Of course, when I'm doing my fundraise, I'm trying to find all avenues of some kind
anything
of
that is a benefit, right? So it makes sense.
Absolutely. So whether it be you just like, for instance, I want to give a shout out to Frankie Perry down at Primo's.
Man,
he's a
delicious.
All right.
I had that last night, man.
Yeah,
he's
got
good.
the best meats around, man. Jeez. Like there's no doubt in my mind, it's the best meat shop in DeSoto County, in my opinion. I talked to him about it. He's going to supply all my pork butts for my program this year. And I don't want him to do it out of his pocket, certainly. But he's put in a position where I can afford his premium meats. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, and of course, I'm sure through his vendors, if there's some other things I need, then he can certainly retrieve them for me. So that's what I'm after, just like let's cut the middleman out, so to speak. So like if you went to
wholesale
a grocery store, wholesale, that's right.
Have you guys considered, I don't know if you have, I don't even know if it's an option, but AWG, which is a big distributor?
Yeah, they're a little big for me to be walking in the front door just yet. But like, I'm just one man. I mean, I can only do
I'm Coach Camp.
I know it.
I'll walk up in there.
I do too. And listen, though.
Which means nothing. It's just I'm not afraid to say no, we're not.
I'm still trying to make a living for my family.
Sure you are.
And of course it takes time, and of course on top of that, just trying to hit up and think. I mean, I'm on the phone in the evenings. I'm texting. I'm emailing. I'm doing as much as I can. So yes, you're right. But I mean, it's still in its grassroots for me.
Yeah,
I'm still kind of trying to think outside the box of how to get more for the program without just abusing people. I don't want to do that.
Right.
So, because I got some that just give till it hurts, and then I got some, it's like, man, like, certainly appreciate all that. But I think it's just people worried about it not being legitimate enough. That was the first year I was kind of like really selling it to the point of where I'm like, trust me, well, now that trust is there, and now they're coming. You know what I mean? And now they know what it is.
I think you make a great point of a person not seeing the need.
Yeah.
It's not even that they wouldn't help if they thought there was a need.
Yeah.
But if you haven't lived it or been around it
right.
seen it firsthand, sometimes it's hard to understand or believe,
Correct.
Well, that's a real need there.
Yeah.
And they would be involved with it.
I think so.
Let me ask you this, Miss Billie. So where do you see this program going in the next year, 3 years, 5 years? What do you think about?
Unless the economy gets better for all peoples.
I would like that. I want to vote for that.
Yeah,
I
Chris,
think it will. There'll always be a need.
Sure.
We do not have the people or the energy to move outside of the Walls area.
Right.
And I know that there are other churches that have done this type of program, maybe not to the extent and for as long as we have, but it's if you've got the volunteers and the donors, it's easy to do.
Yeah.
I just plan my week. Every Thursday I go to church and I pack and pray.
Right.
And we have the team that's there that buys and
you have a model in place.
Yes.
And others can model that.
Sandy oversees everything, and it just works very smoothly.
One of my first things I did, I asked Miss Sandy the same question you asked earlier about church involvement from other churches. There's none. Now, I'm not downing them because I think they all have their own thing going on, But there are some churches out there that have so much good fortune from their parishioners that they're looking for more opportunities. And with that being said, I'm not saying you got to give to ours. That's not what I'm saying. Like, you're certainly welcome. We want any kind of partnership we can get. However, maybe start up a program in your church for your local schools. I know that in our area, for sure, Horn Lake Elementary, probably an indefinite need. I would guarantee you it is. Shadow Oaks, all that stuff. Maybe Hope Sullivan, somewhere in that area to where we know the areas are not quite as wealthy as others. That's certainly the biggest component. It's just financial reasons, but obviously it can turn into other things like divorces, loss of jobs. We don't know what's really going on, but however, I would implore them it don't have to be a Feed My Lambs. It can be anything, just a food security program that's easily done. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I told you I'm not schooled in this, but it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding when you see the end result and like, I got that thing funded this year. You know what I mean? Like, it's not me, it's all the people, like, we got it done. Like,
sure,
through all of our efforts. And then I can count on these guys to do the hard work, getting it to them, and shopping. To me, the easy part's asking and, and help.
I just bring that up because I was thinking, I'm that guy. Miss Sandy, if you don't know me that well, if you said, hey, let's go climb a mountain, my first thought is, well, let's try Mount Everest.
Yeah, he's that way for sure. Yeah,
I'm like, well, I'm going to bypass the small one so I can just get this over with, right? Let's go big. Yeah. So my first thought about this, and the reason why I asked that, Miss Billie, is because I think that this is something that DeSoto County could wrap its head around. And, being a small entity is where things most often have to start. And just like our Hope Center event, we started out with just such and it wasn't me, it's Stacy Dodd, Mr. Kenneth, they started that program, and it's continued to slowly get bigger, but now it's starting to really, people see the benefit. And we do leadership conferences in the different cities. And so our next one's in Olive Branch. We just finished one in Horn Lake, and we go and we present to kids, and we give them, we line them up with one-on-one mentorship. And my point to it is this: could have kept it strictly Hernando, but instead we see that this is a need that's much more expansive. My thought is, the bigger the Army, the more the impact. I think you guys have a model. I asked that because I was curious as to your interest in it, and it sounds like you're open to suggestions. In DeSoto County, I could see this being something that the entire county gets together, has a county model that can be implemented in all the other counties, not just in our state, but all other states. Yes, Mount Everest. I'm telling you, Miss Sandy, I see what you're doing. Well, I believe in what you're doing, Chris, and I think that this need is continuing to grow. It's not going away. I did the
same thing to her when I first started. I'm like, why are we not doing it? She goes, look, I'm going to be honest with you. We don't have it in us to do more than these.
And that's the thing. Like, it's not you.
Yeah, right. So
it's how you teach the next group, and then you bring in more, obviously.
And then, of course, most of these folks that are donating their time and their efforts are retired individuals that have the time to commit to it, much like my mom and Sandy and Billie. Miss Betty, she don't even go to church there either, by the way, but she's one of our largest supporters, Miss Betty Spooner. But the liaison at Lake Comrade is a counselor down there, and she's a wonderful person too. I don't want to say her name because I haven't spoke to her about it, so I don't want to do that. But however, she's a young lady. But what I will say is we are looking for people to help these ladies transition away from such hard work.
As Stacy says, he ain't going to be there forever.
Right.
He's got to train the next generation to pass the baton.
I've been talking to these guys about that because I think with the recent events of my mother and things like, it's not forever. You know what I mean?
It's not forever, but the process can be.
It can be.
You just won't be that person.
Pass it on to that person.
That's right.
That we just need somebody to step up. And
I don't know who's going to be the next Coach Camp. Maybe you.
I doubt it, brother.
You're a good talker.
Well,
you got that down.
I know that, but I don't know if I got the energy for that. You got way more energy than
I drink coffee. So. I drink coffee.
I do too, but it don't do what it does to you, man. I'm telling you. So, but however, we're looking for any kind of folks that want to get involved in our particular program, of course, and then at a volunteer level, I think it's very rewarding. You do not have to be a member of the church. They were very receptive of me. I mean, it didn't have to be something like that. They were just looking for resources, and this guy wants to help. Well, the same thing with the Pack and Pray that they do every Thursday. I think that anybody's got a little extra time. My mom would miss doctor's appointments to make sure she's at Pack and Pray. You know what I mean? It was the most important thing in her life is Thursdays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then she would go to the school. They had like Nancy's Closet down there, is what we call it. My mom, by the way, was Fancy Nancy to everybody that knew her. She wouldn't leave the house without her iconic red lipstick and her earrings. And I mean, she was always done up. I think I sent you a picture of her obituary.
You did.
So
You did.
It was pretty much the same thing. However, if you feel compelled, you need some fellowship, as I would say, just friends. Like, you don't even have to be religious necessarily. You can come in and be a part of this wonderful program that helps the community. And this church particularly, they allow that to take place with anybody, all comers. I don't think they're judging anyone. They just need the help, And so if you can't give money, if you can't donate food, there's always time.
Sure. It's the most valuable resource we have.
Spread the word a little bit, Like I just tell everybody, any capacity you can help is greatly appreciated. And I really mean that because I'm not thinking money at that point. I'm just thinking, tell it, sell it, whatever we got to do, that gets the word out. And we are so far, when I got involved, and I think this is not just me, but I'm just saying, like, as a group, they've seen kind of how I see it. And so now it's like promo all the time. Like, we got to get the word out because that was the problem before.
Sure.
So, with the T-shirts, I went to another person that worked at the church. I don't even know if she goes there, to be honest with you, but Miss Dawn, she may. And I said, she said she did T-shirts. And I'm like, well, why aren't we doing T-shirts? Like, why aren't we selling T-shirts? Why aren't we promoting T-shirts? So, by the way, you can call me or text me, and I'll give you my number. I'll put that thing out there right now. You can call me for sales of shirts, barbecue butts. We can do it all.
Yeah. And that actually is a good segue because I was about to ask you about your fundraiser that you have coming up.
Yeah. So it's going to be on September 28th in the big parking lot next to Minor Memorial United Methodist Church. And I don't know the exact address, but it's next to the Walls Water. So
6120 Goodman Road West.
Yes. Okay.
6120.
And so
I can put that in.
What we do,
notes.
and by the way, I may be saying this wrong, and I apologize to my friends who are doing this, but my mom had some neighbors that come over a few years back, and I only lived like a half a mile from her too, but I got to know them, and they're Samoan. And they do this amazing food called Polynesian barbecue.
I love that stuff. You cook it down on the ground with the leaves.
No, not that deep. Okay. I think that they're actually cooking.
I've been to some luau's, and they were delicious.
It's not a luau, but it's pretty close. I think the atmosphere is pretty good. But it's called Mataz, is what it is, like Maitaz, I think is how they say it. But it's wonderful. It's beef and chicken products. So I wanted to add them in this year. I invited them to be a part of our program as a vendor in order to have an option besides pork, because not everybody loves the pork. I mean, they love it, but they can't eat it maybe,
Yeah,
so
sure.
It's hard on the body. But however, they're going to be there and selling food that day and, of course, contributing parts of their they agree. I mean, I just asked them if they would, and they, of course, I said, I don't want a number. You just do what you can.
Yep.
If you want to donate part of your proceeds, and that's great. The car show we have this year, of course, when we back up, we'll also be there with our barbecue truck selling barbecue nachos and sandwiches and plates as normal. And then it takes a lot of folks. And the car show that we added last year has already surpassed reservations for this year. We got a ton of those, and it's building on. Like I said earlier, I got Tony Yeager. I got some guys, local guys. They're big car show guys and car guys coming as well. But Tony Yeager is obviously the guy that's going to help me promote this most. Him and a guy by the name of James Stegall is also a local guy that's big into cars. They both told me they'd help, and they're both from the Walls community. I'm very fortunate to have people on my side to kind of help promote this thing. And our side, as far as getting the word out about just feeding my lambs as a whole, because it's so important, and it just spreading the word, and each year it gets a little bit better and better and better. And so the day of, we kind of just run it for about 5 hours to the public. But you can come up if we're there. You can certainly come up. I
order my butt, so I just pick it up from you.
Yeah, that day. Yeah. Come by, get the butt, look at the cars. We count on everybody just to. It'd be hard for me to deliver them because we typically in the past couple of years I've been cooking from like 120 to 150 butts a year. So it's been pretty, that's where the majority of the revenue I was getting for the program was coming from. I thought, well, let's double down. And then I realized, like, when they come up, they might buy a butt, and they'd pay for it. And like, hey man, just keep the change for the program. That's been been so important to the program, where they buy a plate of food, it's $12 or $13, and then they give you a $20. Keep the rest. And that's so
it adds
important.
up.
Man, yeah. So a lot of that was coming from that. And then, of course, now with the car show, every single penny of this, by the way, I want to reiterate, goes to feeding these children. There's no waste in this thing, as far as that goes. There's not somebody in the middle taking a paycheck. I don't get paid. Cost me a good bit of money to actually be behind this program. These ladies are all volunteer. They spend their own gas, their own time, whatever it is, going to shop and deliver. So I just want to reiterate, those are very rare to have those systems in place to where nobody's in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss Miss Nancy because she and I stand or sit by one another, and we get the bags ready to pack. We even recycle bags. Walmart.
Yeah.
Target.
Dollar General,
whatever. We shake those bags out and send them down.
Yeah. That's good. Well, so here we are. We're at the end. Look, if you guys didn't light a fire under somebody out there, then there's no fire to be lit at this point. Obviously, taking action, and you can make a difference and have an impact in your community. And then, look, here's the thing. Don't be discouraged if you're helping just 7 kids, which is what y'all started out with. You never know how far and how big that can grow. And those 7 kids mattered. I guarantee you, those are the ones right there that they're looking back now thinking, man, that program saved our lives, just like the ones that you guys mentioned to me.
Absolutely.
So my question to y'all is, as we leave here, what pearl of wisdom, Miss Wilhite, my wise teacher from back in the day, what would you leave the listeners with, or what's the message you would want to leave behind?
There is some way for everybody to give back. And when you get up in the morning, you need to pray and think about, what can I do today to give back? Because we are so blessed.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to take money. It can take time. It can take effort.
No.
A kind word.
A kind word.
Sometimes could change an entire trajectory of a person.
That's right.
I agree. How about you, Mr. Neal? What you got?
Call me at 662-404-2364 or text, either way, and find a way to order your Barbecue Boston Butt, brought to you by Primo's and, of course, Roofworks, that big roofing company. They provide all the cooking and the facilities for that, the trailer. I don't want to be an advertiser, but that's what I'm doing. I'm promoting things. But I will say that if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I'm not a wealthy man financially. I make an okay living. And the majority of my customers know that when they pay me, a large majority of that money is going to go back somewhere to a program. So that's probably what keeps it going, really, So just don't be afraid to help. Like, don't ask what they're going to do with it, or don't worry about if there's like, they don't need that. I mean, you don't know that. Like, you don't know the circumstances. So I'm the guy, if I see him on the side of the road, I'm probably going to give him some money. And I don't care if he's going to go get a drink. Well, he might need a drink. I don't know. So that's kind of how I think of things. Like, once you give, and I always told my mom, I taught her a little bit towards the end with that stuff, because she was always like, well, I did this, and then I found out they took it back to Walmart, and got the money. And I'm like, well, maybe they need the money more than the clothes, Mom. I said, so once you give it to them, you got to forget it. Like, that's on them to do the right thing.
That's right.
So that's kind of how I see it. So if you're having reservations about helping or giving, just remember it's the thought first and the action.
That's right.
And so if you give with a good heart, you're going to get in return.
Absolutely.
Back. And I'd hope if I was in a similar situation that somebody would find it and, be compelled to help me. And I hope I'm never there, but you just don't know. So, give without worrying, give with a true, kind, open heart, and just know that you're doing good in the community. And so if we do that with everybody, like Miss Billie said, just find a way to give back, pay it forward. Like we hear that all the time. I see it on these happenings page, like, oh, thanks to whoever paid for my breakfast this morning in front of me, and that's great. That's like anonymous, and it's like thankful. And then you're like, well, I paid for the guy behind me because I really didn't need it. So that's highly important. And so if we can all just as a community find a way to help each other, quit trying to compete and outcompete each other on living, and let's just worry about the people who have not, So that's what I would say. And remember that, it does take a village, as you said, Chris. Yeah. There's a lot of people that has to get behind.
When we work together, we are much stronger.
Always, man.
Always. Miss Sandy, close us out.
Okay. Well, I just want people to know that everybody can make a difference, and it doesn't have to be a big, grand gesture. It doesn't have to be a big, grand donation. Like I always even tell it to the church family, your dollars and your change, they add up. It doesn't have to be a huge donation, and every person can make a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you, Miss Sandy. Well, look, thank you guys for coming out. Keep up the strong work. You're an inspiration to so many, and you're making a difference and an impact. And trust me, that's what we need. Tons and tons of people out there having a positive impact on the next person next to you. Be a good neighbor. That's what I would say. Hey, look, I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Coach Camp is nothing without you. My wife appreciates the fact I spend some time away from the house. So look, continue to tune in. I want you to go to my website, motivatewithcoachcamp.com. Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and until next time, Coach Camp out.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want, and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's